Ariza for three. Bang! Trevor Ariza from downtown. Finds Hardaway at the buzzer. Bang! Bang! Murray steps back. Bang! Terry wide open for three. Bang! Westbrook for three. Bang! And Nunn puts it up. Bang! Banks it in. Kendrick Nunn from downtown. Durant does three-pointer. Bang!
All right. What's up, Tar Heel Nation? How you doing, man? Hopefully we can make your workday a little bit easier now that we've got a lot of kind of news and rumors to talk about. And before we do, guys, I want to say thank you once again for joining me here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and basketball opinions. I appreciate each and every one of you that has kind of tuned into the stream, messed with me heavy, has kind of supported the channel time in and time again. So I do appreciate the love and support that each one of you has given me, and to kind of continue growing this channel as we are on our quest for 1,000 subscribers. So I do appreciate you guys that have been messing with the channel, hitting that like button, also hitting that subscribe button, and also sharing this video with basketball aficionados and just people who like basketball in general. I don't care if they're the #1 guy on the team or if they're on the bench, as long as you're sharing basketball and we're kind of talking basketball, that's all I really care about. But before we do that, I just wanted to kind of let you know that, of course, I have to do my little infomercial stuff. So let's kind of go to the live scene here. We have merchandise. If you are interested, we have a hat, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and also a mug if you are interested in this type of merchandise. And today's video and kind of today's discussion, we're going to be going into how I feel that the Pelicans have kind of squandered their opportunities what seems like the past couple of years now. Ever since they drafted Anthony Davis, it seems like they've squandered more and more opportunities to get themselves over the hump and maybe get themselves into a playoff position. And it just seems time and time again that they've kind of put themselves back into that position. We're also going to be talking about this Ben Simmons news. If you guys don't know, it looks like Ben Simmons has cut ties with the 76ers and has officially decided that he is going to go his own way and try and find a way to go on to a different team. What team that'll be, we're going to find out. What teams are interested in Ben Simmons, but I'll let you know now. It's kind of a couple of teams I'm thinking. And I'm just not sure if Ben Simmons is going to like what teams are available for him to kind of take and decide. Before we do that, like I said, please remember to hit that share, like, and subscribe button if you're interested. I just want to make sure that we are live on all platforms. Again, we do have a Twitch channel. We also have a YouTube channel, obviously, which you're watching on, and of course, we're also live on many other platforms as well. But before we get going here, I just want to let you guys know and kind of say, hopefully you guys are enjoying your Thursday afternoon. Hopefully you guys are staying safe, relaxed, kick back, and we will begin this live stream right now. So with all the kind of plugs and all that stuff kind of out the way, we're going to be talking first of all about the Pelicans. The one thing I want to look at so far is kind of looking at their roster at the moment. I think the biggest thing about this roster from last year was that I think it had a lot of great players. It had a lot of players that you thought, okay, maybe we could see some growth and development from some of these guys. And it just hasn't turned out to be that way, as I believe they finished 4th in the Southwest. But if we look at the standings, they finished, I believe, in 11th place, which is just one shy of that hopeful kind of play-in spot, which is where I think teams are going to start to kind of go into now as we kind of look and see what teams are going to be doing in order to get themselves into the playoffs. And I think the disappointing thing about the Pelicans at this point is the fact that they, I believe, have a great roster from last year. When you have players like Jackson Hayes, Brandon Ingram, and of course Zion Williamson, kind of being the kind of guys that you have on your team. I think the frustrating part to me about the Pelicans at the moment is kind of like, what is their end goal with the roster that they have and kind of the players that they have, right? You know, they have great players, and then all of a sudden, you know, you add a coach like Van Gundy, who I'm not a huge fan of. I think that he kind of stagnates players, and I think he's a stagnant coach. I know that he took Dwight Howard and that Orlando Magic team to the NBA playoffs, but I've never trusted a Van Gundy to coach my team for this reason. I just feel like they are guys that need players that are already experienced, where I feel like a lot of those young guys needed a coach to kind of gather the troops and kind of let them grow and mature and become the players that I know that they can become. You know, the story that it goes with a guy like Brandon Ingram is potential. Is this guy going to get there? You know, we're always waiting. It's always year after year. And I thought that last year he kind of hit his stride. I just felt like it was kind of halted by the way that things were going. And then, of course, you have Zion Williamson. You know, a guy that we're looking to see could be the next superstar of the league. I know a lot of people are looking at him as being the next face of the NBA. I know that there's a lot of guys vying for that opportunity and vying for that role, but he is definitely in that conversation for that, just due to the fact of where he's at in his career. And so I think the disappointing thing, like I said, is that you have a roster like this and they just they can somehow not get to where I think they need to be, right? Like when we look at the teams that are ahead of them in the standings from last year, I think that they're better than the Spurs. Warriors, we can probably make a discussion, maybe not, but I think that they're better than the Grizzlies. I think their roster, especially with the injured Jaren Jackson Jr. for most of the year with the Grizzlies, you would think that the Pelicans could make a strong push, but that just wasn't the case. I honestly think that they're a lot stronger than I think they're a lot stronger than the Grizzlies, and I think they're a lot stronger than the Spurs, and especially in the play-in games, you have to be able to kind of master getting into that spot. And so far, you know, as a team that always seems to be in the lottery, they just can't seem to get that going. Tar Heel Nation, you said Pelicans' end goal is to sign and trade Zion to the Knicks for Fournier and Quentin Grimes. That's what it's looking like, man. It's looking like they're going to trade away Zion at some point. You know, I know Zion isn't a very public figurehead in terms of he won't go out and publicly say, hey, I demand a trade. I think he'll let his camp do that and kind of the people that he is around kind of do that sort of situation. And so I think the frustrating thing for me is that the Pelicans understand this and realize this. Why are they not making moves to get themselves in a position to, you know, get Zion a lot more touches? I think Zion's a lot better when he's not being a point forward. I think he's a lot better in a different role, but the problem is I feel like they kind of have, you know, especially in the Van Gundy system, it just felt like he was always kind of in that point guard position or in that role where he has to kind of carry the rock, which I don't know if that's necessarily where I kind of expected him to be at this point. You know, I kind of expected him to be in a situation where he, you know, might be a guy that brings up the ball, but I really like him kind of being kind of like a low post threat, and kind of being like a pseudo big, or kind of a big that can kind of stretch the floor as well. I just felt like with the way that Van Gundy had the offense ran, it just kind of didn't feel like that at times, and I just felt like the Pelicans got stagnant. And that's no kind of small feat, especially when you have players like Lonzo Ball, who I think was a great player for them. You know, each and every year it just feels like the Pelicans are drafting guards. You know, they drafted Trey Mann this year. They drafted Kira Lewis the year before that. It just kind of, it made me think that, okay, maybe Lonzo's time in New Orleans is done. Because of the way that, you know, you look at everything, you see the players that they've been drafting. I think they got Trey Murphy this year. You know, to me, what it feels like is just a roster that's uninspired right now. You know, they got Devontae Graham, hopefully kind of trying to be that replacement for Lonzo Ball. Jackson Hayes, we're not so sure about his situation. You know, he's got a lot of stuff. You know, of course, obviously the reports about resisting arrest and all that stuff, but also the video came out and it is not looking favorable for the police. So I'm hoping that we can kind of get that resolved, and I hope Jackson Hayes can come back on the court and play. What's up, Justin? How you doing, man? And so I hope Jackson Hayes can kind of get back on the court. That's my hope. But you never know with this sort of judicial system and the way that things are going right now. But you know, with that being the case, as we look at everything, this is kind of the frustration that I have with New Orleans right now. It's just kind of that sort of situation at hand. And so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this Pelicans roster? Again, what I find frustrating about the Pelicans at the moment is that their roster and just kind of the way that they've been going is not suited for, I feel like, the next generation of NBA. And it just feels like it'll be time and time again where you're going to get Zion, you're going to get Brandon Ingram, guys that, you know, are very good players. He missed his takes and breakdowns. He'll be back. He'll actually be here tomorrow, Justin. So you're gonna see him tomorrow. He's just been busy with work, so it's just kind of been me and sometimes Tyrese at times. But again, you know, like I said, what I find frustrating about the Pelicans at this point is that they're gonna drive away their star players, and they're gonna end up being another team that just keeps recycling good players and then having to do that each and every year because they just can't seem to build the roster or even have the right coach around those players. I understand you picked Stan Van Gundy because you thought he could do it as a former NBA finalist in that game, but at the same time, I just think that there was much better replacement coaches at this point. And I want to know, I'm not sure if they've already, I think they've hired their coach, right? It's, I believe it's Willie Green. I believe Willie Green is the new coach. He's a former player. I believe he played on the Hornets at one point, New Orleans Hornets, that is. And so that's kind of the situation that we find ourselves in. We're going to see, you know, D'Antoni's going to be added to the staff as a consultant, not really being there all the time. But I think that the situation at hand with a guy like Willie Green is to hopefully keep guys like Brandon Ingram to stay, at least keeping one of those guys. If you can somehow keep one of those players to stay in New Orleans, I think that's a big W for them, and they can build off that rather than losing both those guys. So it depends on where the Pelicans draft next year. Obviously, they drafted in the top 11, top 10, and traded that pick away and sent it to the Grizzlies. And meanwhile, they got, I believe they got Valanciunas in that sort of situation. And so kind of looking at everything and seeing where the Pelicans are at this point, it sucks to see that they lost their point guard, Lonzo Ball, because I think he really did fit really well with that roster. You saw when Zion, Williamson, and Lonzo have that connection, you can see that great things happen. Like when Lonzo has the ball in his hands and he's passing the rock in this Pelicans offense, you saw some great things. So to me, when I look at that situation, when I look at previous games, when I look at games where Zion Williamson goes off, it's because Lonzo's getting him the ball. I'm not saying that Zion is a dependent superstar that needs Lonzo to get him the ball. But I do think that it is frustrating as a Pelicans fan that knowing that you did have the player, you did have the team and the roster to do it. Meanwhile, you struggled to kind of keep the team together, and you decide to let a guy like Lonzo go, and instead get Devontae Graham. You know, when you go from 6'6" all the way down to 6'1", it's just a hard kind of gut check reality to see where you're at with this sort of situation. And so we'll kind of see what happens, man. But I for one, am kind of disappointed in the way that the Pelicans have kind of continuously not built their roster and built their team on the success of the 3-star players. It just feels like they've kind of dedicated, either they're going to keep Brandon Ingram or they're going to keep Zion Williamson. I think that's going to be the situation that we're going to see in the next couple years as those contracts run down, and we're going to see which player they decide to keep. Is it going to be Zion? Is it going to be Brandon Ingram? Because I don't think they can keep both those guys. And so we'll see as, you know, we keep waiting on that huge breakout season from Brandon Ingram, all-star level type of caliber player. We're still waiting on that type of like superstar breakout from Brandon Ingram. That's always been the thing with Brandon Ingram. Am I gonna believe that? I'm not so sure. I think Zion probably has the most potential. In hindsight, Jackson Hayes at 8 instead of Hero was really bad. I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, you know, I don't think Hero had a great season last year either. And I don't think Hero's going to have a great next season as well, because now he's going to be, the number 4, number 5 guy on the team. You know, you get Duncan Robinson now kind of being the sharpshooter for them. You know, Tyler Hero maybe coming off the bench for that Heat unit. Who knows what the man Heat will do with Tyler Hero. I think Jackson Hayes at 8 probably was a little bit too high for him. I mean, let's look at that draft. I mean, what draft was that? Jackson Hayes. What year was this? Okay. What year was he? Was he... I know there's a lot of... What year was this? I gotta remember which year this was. think this was the... Oh, what year was this draft? 2019 model. Here we go. Oops. Let's go back to 2019 because this was the official draft, I believe, in this order, right? So the Pelicans obviously had Zion Williamson. That was kind of their big thing. And there wasn't really that much. I would say that this draft was a little... I'm trying to think what the right word is. Like, this draft was very... In hindsight, this draft was not very good. And as we look at here, you know, we look at the top picks, right? We had Zion Williamson, John Morant, RJ Barrett, DeAndre Hunter, who I think the Pelicans really should have kept at that point. And instead, they just didn't do it. You know, they kind of traded with... you know, it's crazy to think that... I think this was the Hawks draft. But, I mean, we look at some guys that were in this... that were in this draft. I mean, there's not really much to really go on. I mean, right now, you know, Taylor Horton Tucker might be, you know, a guy that probably should have gotten taken higher. A guy that probably they should have taken or should have looked at and done a little bit more research on was Kevin Porter out of USC. I thought he should have been a guy that teams looked at and been like, okay, that guy should have been a little bit higher on our list. Obviously, Romeo Langford was kind of the guy that we had in our draft. Or even Rui Hachimura. I think Rui in a Pelicans uniform would have been great. I know that would have probably clashed with Zion, but I think that probably would have been a better pickup. But at the end of the day, you know, we kind of look at the sort of situations. We look at the players that got taken. You know, Tyler Hero at 16. Obviously, Miami kind of took him. They kind of had him under the wing in that draft pick. And we kind of look at everything, and again, you know, it just wasn't a great draft, I would say. You know, there's a lot of players that you could say, oh, you know, maybe they should have went here, they should have went there. But if I had to kind of look at this draft over again, if instead of Jackson Hayes, I probably would have looked at a guy like, I know Rui, we can say Rui's a power forward and he kind of takes Zion's spot, but I think that's probably the area that I would go. Or even, you know, even take a chance on Bol at this point. You know, you're not really losing on anything. Or even Matisse Thybulle. I mean, if you want a defensive unit for your team, I mean, this was the 2019. So let's look at the 2019 Pelicans. And kind of look at their roster. I think this was the... Let's look at their roster really quick as we kind of mute the music really quick. You know, their roster was kind of an interesting one, right? They had Derek Favors, Nikhil Walker, Lonzo Ball, obviously, from that big trade. They had Josh Hart. You know, they had Jackson Hayes, who they drafted. But, like, Drew Holiday, a guy that they probably should have done a lot better with. Brandon Ingram, Frank Jackson, Etuan Moore, Jahlil Okafor. And, you know, you kind of look at this whole situation. I think the biggest thing that was missing, obviously, was at the center position. And that's the reason why they took Jackson Hayes. But I think they're also missing a shooting guard that can kind of be like that defensive stopper. I think Thybulle would have been that guy for them. But instead, they went in a different direction. I can't remember what the draft looked like for them. I know that they got the Jackson Hayes pick. And to me, they should have either went Cam Reddish, or they should have went DeAndre Hunter, or they should have just went Matisse Thybulle. I think that probably would have been a better player. Obviously, we can talk about hindsight being 2020, right? You know, with the draft and all that stuff. But again, you know, I find it very interesting at this point to look at, you know, looking at that draft and looking at this roster, that they've kind of squandered it. And you know, we look at the Pelicans news. I think my whole thing with the Pelicans news is that there's just nothing there, man. To me, this is a bad sign. If you see that the Pelicans aren't making news right now, I think it just kind of goes to show you that they really missed on a great opportunity to get a lot better. You know, they had a chance to get Zaire. I think Zaire Williams would have been. I know that he's similar to Brandon Ingram. I know that the Grizzlies ended up taking him just due to that trade. It's just like Trey Murphy III doesn't really excite me as much. I think that he's a good player, just not a player that changes your franchise. You know, for you know, especially losing Lonzo Ball the way that you did in a sign and trade. I know that you got some players back, but it really wasn't that much that you got back. And I ran a poll on my Twitter. If you guys are interested in following it, I asked who you think, you know, with some grammatical errors, of course, but who you think squandered, who is at fault for the Pelicans' kind of downfall at this moment. And, you know, I kind of had a poll of the players, David Griffin, the GM, Van Gundy, and other. It looks like we had some people blame the players, but I think at the end of the day, you do have to blame David Griffin and Van Gundy. But I think you have to blame Van Gundy the most because I really think that he squandered an opportunity with this roster to really do something in this, to really do something with this roster last year. Like, we talked about the bubble. I thought the reason why they had the playing game was so they can get a guy like Zion Williamson in the playoffs and kind of say, like, look, here's Zion. He's in the playoffs in his first year. He's an impressive player. And we'll kind of go into that kind of sort of situation as well as it pertains to young players and talking about the Warriors. I do want to talk about the Warriors as we're going to be talking about Ben Simmons and kind of the potential rumor with him. But again, my whole thing with the situation is that I just feel like Van Gundy didn't do his job, and that's the reason why he got fired. Is because he didn't do his job. I mean, they ended up being the 11th best team in the West. And especially in a weaker Western Conference in terms of if we look at the teams, if we look at the NBA standings and kind of look at like where each team was at, and I really want to go to the Western Conference from last year. Obviously I think the Jazz and the Suns were the clear cut above the rest. The Lakers had to deal with injuries, so they kind of got shafted a little bit. But you look at teams like the Spurs, you look at teams like the Grizzlies. Hell, even the Trailblazers. I didn't even think that Trailblazers team was that good, in my opinion. Obviously you have Dame and CJ McCollum, but most importantly you have Dame, so I think you can get away with some things. But at the same time, this Pelicans roster is plenty good enough to get yourselves into that kind of play-in game at least. They should have been able to beat the Warriors at this point. The Warriors are a weakened franchise, obviously due to the Clay injury. So it was really Steph by himself. And they got him into the play-in game. That's also kind of a benefit of the play-in game as well, is that, if you have a solo superstar just due to injuries and stuff like that, they actually have a chance to get into the playoffs. But again, my frustration with the Pelicans, and it always has been with them, is the fact that they lost a couple of key games, right? They lost against the 76ers. They lost against the Grizzlies May 10th. They lost against the Warriors, a team that they really kind of battled for. And kind of looking at that stuff even more. We can look at plenty of other games. They should have beaten the Nuggets here. They should have beaten the Spurs a little bit. There's a lot of games that we can go back and look at and say that these teams really should have done a better job this team should have done a better job in marquee games to get themselves kind of going. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of one of those situations. And it looks like, we talked about the breakup between Lonzo and New Orleans was inevitable. And this is, of course, by Scott Kushner. And he kind of goes on to say that it was a decisive end to Lonzo's tenure with the Pelicans. For months, it had been a matter of if, not when or how, and the franchise would part ways with their starting guard. Despite Ball growing into a respectable shooter and displaying flashes of brilliance as a distributor, sources around the league forecasted a breakup. On Monday, with 30 seconds of the NBA free agency window, the Ball era closed, obviously doing the sign and trade. He made it very clear personally one-on-one that he wants to be here in March. Yet, what you'll read is that a player who doesn't want to be here. He's not in our plan, so you should trade him for a ham sandwich. That doesn't make any sense when we know the actual real story behind Lonzo Ball. But ultimately, the Pelicans moved on with the sign and trade without much leverage at all. And that's the thing that you have to really look at. I really think that, Lonzo was hurt by the move of going from, the Lakers as the number 2 pick overall to being shipped off for Anthony Davis and not being kept. Meanwhile, you had Kuzma kind of be the guy that they decided to keep around. Obviously, you trade away Lonzo, you trade away Ingram because those players are worth more in the long run, and you can see the reason why they decided they don't want Kuzma part of that deal. And so my frustration, honestly, with this Pelicans organization is you should have been able to make it work. You should have been able to have the Pelicans kind of reach an agreement with Lonzo and his camp to get him in a situation where both those players can thrive and succeed. And that's the frustrating part as a Pelicans fan would be, you have such a great talented player in Lonzo Ball not being utilized to his fullest potential. I mean, we can look at his stats from last year. And we can kind of look at his stats from last year and, kind of compare them. Let me see if you guys can see it here. And kind of compare the stats and we can kind of look at the seasons, and we'll put the top season up top first. You know, he improved as a player. We can look at the stats, and it's there. Like, we look at his points per game, up from his first year in LA. And you can tell that he's been working on the jump shot. The jump shot is good. And, you know, I made a video, a couple years ago talking about, like, it's an improved jump shot. And a lot of people were like, no way, dude, this is clickbait. But I could see the improvements. I can see him going for, you know, getting a much better jumper and a much cleaner looking jump shot instead of the one that comes across his face. It's more of a here and then shoot. Whereas I feel like before it was more so like he kind of had the ball start in his almost like near his stomach, and then kind of as he got up to the release, you could see that it almost kind of looked like a clock, kind of with the hands moving and then shooting it. You can see all that stuff really paid off. I mean, he, like I talked about way before on other streams, you know, we can look at his three-point percentage. He's improved tremendously from his rookie year, you know, averaging a 30% free throw, three-pointer percentage, to now a respectable 37 three-point percentage. I mean, that's got to tell you something, that he's working on that jump shot. He's working on being a more consistent jump shooter. And maybe 30% isn't respectable compared to other guards. You look at Curry, you look at all these other guys shooting at least 45 and higher. But hey, man, when you go from 30 all the way to 40-something, that's respectable, and that shows that you put in a lot of effort and work into getting your game a lot higher. My frustration also came in the fact that his minutes per game fell dramatically. You know, from going from 34 minutes a game to about 30, 32, 31. I know that's not a lot, but like in crunch time situations, he was just not out there on the court. And we can kind of look at the steals, about 1.5, turnovers, less than last year, you know, 2.2. That's what he's going to average. But rebounding wise, you know, always going to be the same player. Free throw wise, he can actually be out there on the court with you now at a respectable 78% compared to 44% in his rookie year. And then we look at other things as well. I think his field goal percentage needs to get a little bit higher. But hey, when you come from 36 all the way to 41, I think that's respectable. You got yourself back up to a kind of average level. Now we need to see that go up to at least 50-something% for Lonzo. Not, you know, because I think his 2-point percentage is still low for my liking, especially at 48%. I think he could be a little bit higher than that. I think he could actually be at like 55. Just because, you know, I know he's not the strongest finisher, and that's not really his game, but I still think he could do a much better job in that aspect of getting himself kind of to the cup and kind of finishing at the rim. So that's kind of my kind of take with Lonzo Ball. And to me, when I see this growth and development from Lonzo, it makes me question like why the Pelicans didn't try and keep him. Why the Pelicans I understand that he may not want to be there. I get that. But at the same time, when you look at Lonzo Ball, when you look at the way that the Pelicans are ran as an organization, you have to start and question yourself, like, what's going on with the Pelicans right now? Are they, you know, is it really Lonzo Ball that doesn't want to be there, or is it the culture that you set in New Orleans that makes players not want to be there? And like we talked about, Zion is rumored to not want to stay there. So if you're a Pelicans fan, or if you're a Pelicans organization, if you're one of the guys in the front office, I'm doing everything I can to keep Zion happy and Brandon Ingram happy, because if you're going to build around those two guys, you're going to need some good players around them. You're going to need that point guard, and I felt like Lonzo, like I said, you know, this is year 4. He's improved each and every year. It's not like it is with the guy like Ben Simmons. It's not, which we will talk about later, you know, maybe in about a couple minutes here. You know, it's not like these other players who kind of stay stagnant. He's improved each and every year. And I know a lot of people kind of want to kind of crap on Lonzo because Magic Johnson said he was going to be the next Magic, or that he was going to be the next kind of superstar point guard. But you have to look at the sort of situation at hand and kind of say, like, you know what? Lonzo has improved each and every year. And again, I always compared him to Jason Kidd. I never compared him to a guy like Magic Johnson or LeBron James or any of those type of players, because I know that when you look at a guy like Lonzo, he's not the best finisher around the rim. And that's something that he needs to work on and kind of embrace the contact to go and finish. You know, at 6'6", almost 6'7", I think he has to do that in order to get themselves going. And again, we'll see what happens with a guy like Lonzo Ball and what his future holds. Like, will it become one where we see Lonzo become a sort of Jason Kidd-esque player, or will he go beyond and above that? Again, I think his limit is probably going to be in the next 2 seasons. I think that's going to be his peak, and by peak I mean he's going to be a really solid point guard. Like I said, I'm not expecting Magic Johnson, but I'm expecting at least Jason Kidd. Almost closer to triple-double numbers, which is what he's kind of doing right now in his career. You know, averaging 11.7, 5.8, and 6.4. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at with Lonzo. Not saying that it's not a bad. You need someone like that. You need someone that's going to be able to do the little things, right? The rebounding, the assists. Not so much the points, but at least be a comparable three-point shooter. And he's shown that he has become a comparable three-point shooter throughout his career, or a comparable one in this last couple games, especially from the 1920 season all the way to the 2021 season. And we'll see how he does with Zach LaVine. I'm curious, Justin, I know that you're a big fan of this sort of Chicago Bulls team that's coming up. And I can't wait to see what you guys do in the playoffs, because I think it'll be a lot of fun to see, LaVine and Ball kind of work together. And also make it easier for guys like Vucevic to get the rock inside, make it easier scoring opportunities, which I think Lonzo does a really good job of, making easier opportunities for guys like Vucevic, like LaVine, to get open and to kind of be not so much stress on them. But with that being said, let me know if you are a Pelicans fan or if you're a Bulls fan. What are you expecting from Lonzo Ball? Are you happy that Lonzo Ball's on the Bulls? Or what do you expect from the Bulls? Let me know in the comment section down below. And before we move on to the Ben Simmons news, Justin, you said that's exactly what the Bulls have lacked the last 3 years and what Zach has never had, a good solid point guard. And that's kind of been my point with you guys, Justin. I kind of said this, years ago when they drafted Kobe White. I know a lot of people are hoping that Kobe White could kind of be that guy, but he always seemed to me like a scorer. And I just felt like that's kind of been the Bulls' problem ever since Derrick Rose left. They've been looking for the next sort of scoring guard in terms of from the point guard position, where I feel like you just need a traditional point guard, someone that can get guys open, can kind of help open up the floors and the lanes, because with Lonzo's passing ability, it just makes it so much easier. And I just think that that's kind of what, like you said, that's what they've been lacking. And we'll see what happens in the future with a guy like Lonzo and Zach LaVine as those two guys prepare for next season, and we'll see what those two guys can kind of do together, because I'm really excited to see those guys play together, especially with DeMar DeRozan as well, and see how that sort of ordeal works. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of that whole situation at hand. But with that being said, we're going to move on to our next topic of the day, and that is, of course, the Ben Simmons news. So as you can see from many news sources, whether you trust them or not is up to you. It's looking like Simmons is open to a Warriors trade, and this is, of course, coming from NBC Sports. I'll scroll down a little bit so you can see the report. Ben Simmons open to a Warriors trade, ignoring Embiid's calls. And this, to me, is a little disappointing. You look at the whole situation at hand, and what I find frustrating about this is the fact that you're looking at a situation at hand, one where I feel like it's going to be really ugly in the next couple of years. I really think it's going to be heading into kind of a really messy divorce. And I think really Ben Simmons is hearing the outside noise from fans like us and people that are, in the NBA kind of, critiquing his game. Ben Simmons is about to retire and become the face of FaZe Clan. I swear this man hates basketball. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with Ben Simmons at this point. What I find frustrating about Ben Simmons, I don't really care that there's no videos of him shooting the basketball or anything like that. But when you hear kind of rumors of Ben Simmons not answering phone calls to the 76ers, or they're cutting off, communication with them, that to me is a sign of a toxic relationship. And it just kind of goes to show you that Ben Simmons is hearing the outside noise and is not responding to the outside noise in a positive manner. I really think that he should be responding to this in a much better situation. To me, when you cut off ties, or just say, my thing is okay, Ben Simmons, if you want to trade, if you want to be out of Philadelphia because you feel that you've been disrespected, or you feel like, this isn't really the roster for you, then go ahead and say, what, 76ers, I've had a lot of fun here. We've had some great memories, but I think in order for me to take the next step in my career, and I talk about this with all these players, communication is key to anything, whether it's a relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, whether it is a relationship with your parents, or whether it's a relationship with your teachers or, you know, your coworkers or your boss. You have to be able to communicate what you want from them. Whether that's, hey, you know, I need that report by 5 a.m. tomorrow. What can I do to help you get to that report at 5 a.m.? It's the same thing with Ben Simmons and the 76ers. You need to discuss with the 76ers what you want to do. If you want to, like, if the 76ers asked Ben Simmons, hey, you know, how's your jump shot looking? You know, I think for us, in order for us to really get to that next level, you have to be able to shoot the rock. Like, I don't care if you are a 20% three-point shooter, but if you can at least shoot it and be somewhat of a threat, then I think it's a lot better than you just not being able to shoot the ball. And to me, like, cutting off communication with them, ignoring Ben or Embiid's phone calls, that to me is a little messed up. And it just kind of goes to show you that he's kind of taking, I believe, the coward's way out of leaving Philadelphia. You know, I understand if you feel like, you know, the 76ers fans have been rude to you, or, you know, you feel like the fans have kind of disrespected you because you feel that you know, are doing your best to kind of play the style that you are playing, but at the same time, you know, my frustration with this whole situation is that, you know, I look at everything that I'm seeing here, and I'm just left kind of wondering, you know, what's going on. You know, I'm left wondering, do you really care about your career at this point? In terms of, do you care that you are a you know, do you care about the view that teams are looking at you? I mean, if you don't care, that's fine. And if you want to play video games, that's also fine. But I think, you know, when you're getting paid the money that you are as Ben Simmons, it's part of your job to get better at what you're doing. It's the same reason why I got so frustrated with a guy like Darren Williams or Darren Williams, however you pronounce the name. You know, it's a reason why I got so pissed off with him, because when you look at a guy like Darren Williams, he got his money, he was happy with what he had, and then all of a sudden you see here that he is, you know, not really working on his game, or, you know, he's not taking care of himself. You know, I saw Darren Williams, I saw that he gained a lot of weight when he was playing for the Nets, when that whole Nets fiasco happened. Like, he didn't take care of his body, and to me, it's the same thing with Ben Simmons. You know, you could be the most fit physical athlete at the age of 25, 26. But at the same time, for a guy like Ben Simmons, I want you to succeed. I really had high hopes for a guy like you, because I know what type of talented player you can become. I could see the potential, but he's just not living up to that potential. And again, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from Ben Simmons supporters and people that kind of are player first. But at the same time, I think Ben Simmons is doing himself a huge disservice by not communicating with his team. And Tar Heel Nation, I think you already said this, Ben Simmons about to retire and become the face of FaZe. I swear that man hates basketball. And that's the thing. Like, my question for Ben Simmons would be, you know, why not? Why not develop a three-point shot? Why not work on your game? Because right now, when you look at him in the offense, he's the point guard, but really, as soon as he passes the rock, he's all the way into the dunker spot. And I'll kind of show you guys where that dunker spot's at. Oops. Because I spelled this completely wrong. Hang on one second. That's really NBA whiteboard? Okay. Let me see if I can do something here that's not... I want to... No. Let me see if this is it. Just so I can show you kind of where he's at this point. All right, perfect. We'll use this, and hopefully I can mark it. Like, when I see Ben Simmons, this is mostly where he hangs out at, to kind of show you guys kind of a visual representation of the court. You know, you got Embiid kind of in this area, you know, occupying this area. You got Danny Green kind of here going up and down the court. And then of course you have the other guys kind of spaced out up here to kind of have their spacing. And really, like when Embiid goes one-on-one, when he has the opportunity, you might have this guy kind of fill up here, and now it's a kind of, one on, 4-on-1 type of box from one situation, or sorry, like a four out, one in, or sorry, yeah, 4 out, 1 in type of situation where Joel Embiid is in this area. The problem with Ben Simmons is that because he hangs out in here, his defender is going to be right here. Like, his defender is just going to chill in here, because why would I want to guard Ben Simmons? Like, if the court spacing was what it was, right? If this guy was here, this guy's here, and then you have Ben Simmons out here, why would his defender, Ben Simmons' defender, even remotely be like in this area? If I'm him, I'm just gonna be down here, because now this guy can hang out with him, because now if Embiid kicks it over, if he had the basketball here, and he makes that pass over to this guy, that's a lot easier. That's a lot easier for this guy to recover here, instead of, if Ben Simmons was able to shoot. Now it's more of a, okay, now you have to play off a little bit, as, Joel Embiid has the ball here. And if, Ben Simmons was a threat, boom, now what they might do is have this guy come here and this guy come here. But, the distance to get here to Ben Simmons is a lot longer. So if the ball moves quickly, boom, shoots, doesn't have to necessarily go in. But if you can shoot that leaves a lot more of an opportunity for your guy to shoot the ball, and it leaves a better opportunity for Ben Simmons to stretch the floor. And now having to have this guy, instead of doing that X cross, now he has to act. Now he can just be here, and this guy can kind of chill more in here, and it's a lot easier recovery, because now, like I said, Joel Embiid's here. Maybe he gets it down here, down the low block. I know this is an old FIBA court, but again, it's a lot easier for this guy to kind of be recovering, because I think this pass is a lot easier to make than making this sort of full 45 pass to the 45 slot, or to kind of like the wing area. And so, like, if you see, Joel Embiid kind of kick it here, that's going to be a lot harder, because now that takes a longer flight, and now this guy's able to recover. But what you really want to do is have, Ben Simmons be a threat, because now this guy kind of has to be in this area, this guy here, and then boom, like I said, ball kicks out here, this guy has to recover here, and then this guy goes up here. And to me, like, with Ben Simmons not being able to shoot and kind of staying at the same place, it just kind of goes to show you that right now Ben Simmons is in a position, or he's in a place at this point of his career, where I just don't think that he's going to necessarily do that. And, some of the teams that we're looking at are Golden State. He's reportedly wanted to go there. The Sacramento Kings are another team that he's looking to get into. I think that they probably could use him at the power forward position instead of Marvin Bagley. I think that might be something to look at. But now you're in a situation with Ben Simmons. Yeah, after seeing got paid, he dropped off for sure. I remember when it was him and Chris Paul as the top point guard in the league. Especially the Deron Williams situation, Justin. I think the Bulls were kind of in the running for him as well. I think before, they drafted Derrick Rose. And my whole thing, like I said, ignoring the phone calls of Joel Embiid and not improving your jump shot, and apparently looking to go to the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors don't want you. The Warriors are kind of satisfied with what they got, which to me, I'm not really so sure that their roster is complete for an NBA contending championship. You have such young players. It's rare to see young players like Wiseman, like Moody, like Kuminga make a huge impact for your team at such a young age. There's a reason why you're seeing a lot of older teams. There's a reason why LeBron James goes older. There's a reason why the Bucks are comprised of older players. Is because you need those older players who have that playoff experience, who are a lot stronger to be able to compete, against a team like the Nets, right? Have a lot older players, Harden, KD, and Kyrie. And to me, that's kind of the situation that I see, that I think maybe the Warriors should look at that. And I think the 76ers should really look at a rebuild. And I know that sucks for a guy like Embiid, because I know that he's wanting to get a championship for Philly. I just don't think he's going to get a championship in Philly with the way the roster is constructed at this point. You signed a 2-year, $20 million deal to keep Danny Green. That to me it's a hard pill to swallow, in my opinion, for that one. And so at the end of the day, my frustration again goes to the fact that Ben Simmons has yet to improve. And to me, like, we have to look at this story. It talks about Ben Simmons open to a trade. This is coming from Jason Dumas, saying that Ben has cut communication off with basically everyone in the 76ers organization. Everything going through his agent, Rich Paul. Ben is open to a Golden State Warrior, though he doesn't have much leverage in the situation. And that's the thing. Ben Simmons at this point, let's look at his contract. I mean, Ben Simmons' contract right now, at this point, we can look at his contract. I believe he still has like 4 or 5 years right now left on his deal, and we'll wait for this website to load. He still has 3 years left on his deal, and there's no player option. So and let me kind of scroll down for you guys so you guys can see. We're looking at his contract right now. He's going to be making $40 million in the year 2024 or 2025. I don't know where Ben Simmons gets the idea that he can really kind of suffice a move or force himself to trade to get himself in a position where he's going to be, on a team that might be contending for an NBA championship. At this point, the 76ers don't owe him anything. They've already paid him. They made him a high-paid player already. So now it's up to Ben Simmons if he wants to shoot the rock and, continue to grow and develop. And I know that Rich Paul's his agent. I know he's a Clutch Sports guy. But I think LeBron James has to have an intervention with this kid, man. And really kind of discuss, like, what do you want for your future? Like, where do you see yourself as a player? Because right now, I don't really see him in any position to kind of want a trade or to force a trade at this point. We're looking at a guy like Ben Simmons who, again, has 4 years left on this deal, really. To me, like, the fact that you got your money, right? You got the trade you got the contract that you wanted, that this is what you busted your butt for, and now you're demanding a trade because you don't like the way that the coaching is going. Like, to me, it's like, I understand that you are a very talented player. You have a certain set of skills that not a lot of us have. But at the same time, as a guy like Ben Simmons, to me, it's like you got your money. Now either work or get traded to a team that may or may not be in a playoff contention spot. Like, I really do think the Sacramento Kings could be a landing spot for him. You trade away some of their guys. Maybe you get a point guard instead. Maybe you get Halliburton. Maybe you get De'Aaron Fox. And then maybe that kind of slides in Davion Mitchell to that starting spot, and then you have Ben Simmons start at the power forwards position. I feel like that is more so the situation right now. I mean, maybe that's what they do, because right now, like I said, I'm just not convinced at this point. Hang on, I just have to contact some people. And like I said, sorry, just contacting my boy Pete. He looks like we'll be streaming on Saturday, so probably I'll see about a stream tomorrow, but maybe Saturday. Saturday definitely. Tomorrow I'm not so sure. I'll probably will stream just because I think there might be some breaking news. But at the end of the day, just kind of getting back to this Ben Simmons stuff. Like I said, I don't think Ben Simmons is in any position to kind of talk or say anything about where he should go. I think he is in a position where he has to just basically accept the fact that he can demand a trade. I don't see anything wrong with it. But at the end of the day, as a 5-year player, do you think the grass is greener on the other side? Do you think the grass is greener in Sacramento? Do you think the grass is greener in kind of one of these other franchises that may not be playoff contending teams at this point? I know that he wants to be a Warrior, and I know the Warriors are looking at, kind of getting older and making themselves a little bit better. But at the same time, like I said, what I find disappointing about Ben Simmons at this particular point in time is the fact that you haven't shown the ability. Like, if I said, if I saw Ben Simmons putting in the effort that I think he should be putting into working on his jump shot, these last 5 years, and then he demands a trade this season, I could be like, yeah, I kind of get it. A player that continues to grow and develop, but is tired of kind of maybe the Embiid Simmons kind of relationship doesn't work out. I kind of get why, Ben Simmons would want to leave. But the problem is, I see you criticizing Atlanta. You're like, oh, you're playing Atlanta. You'll be fine. No, on Warzone. playing with FaZe Clan, is a member of FaZe Clan, is playing. Again, I don't, there's nothing wrong with video games. I play video games. But the problem is when the video games get in the way of you developing your game and getting a lot better as a player. That to me is where I find it, I would say, frustrating as a GM, as a coach, to know that my player continuously does not want to improve. And to me, what it says is that it's kind of a slap in the face to your coach and to your organization that did pay you. Not saying that you owe them because they gave you money, but at least you owe it to yourself to get better and to become the player that we know that you could become these last couple of years. You were expected to be the next Australian LeBron James, the next Australian Magic Johnson. But so far, it's not looking like that, and it's really turning into a situation where I want to see Ben Simmons improve. I want to see him kick some ass. Like, to put it bluntly, I want to see him kick some ass. I want to see him, with the 76ers dominating, shooting the threes when it's there. Not always shooting it, but shooting it when it's there. Being respectable. Because Giannis will at least take those threes. I know a lot of people are saying, well, Giannis, he takes threes. It's not really his game. But I like the fact that he does take those threes because now it actually forces teams to be like, oh, shoot, he actually might shoot this three. Whereas before, now it's like, I don't know if he's really into shooting the three. You can really sag off of him, and it really leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And to me, it's just kind of one of those situations I look at, and, we'll see what happens. But if you guys are in the live chat or in the comment section, let me know down below, what do you guys make of this sort of Ben Simmons situations? Do you guys think I'm being too harsh on Ben Simmons, or do you guys think I'm being fair in my assessment of Ben Simmons? I'd love to know your guys' comments and opinions in the comment section down below. And as we kind of come to the end of the stream, we don't really have that much news to talk about. Obviously, if you're a soccer fan or a fan of football, looks like Barcelona will not be able to afford Messi this offseason just due to the fact that there is a lot of financial complications with Barcelona at this point. So we're going to see what happens in that sort of situation. I think the big news came in this morning. Actually, two big news, it looks like. We got Julius Randle extending for $117 million. I think that's a huge steal for the New York Knicks. I think getting Randle for $117 is awesome. And it kind of allows them to make other maneuvers as they kind of continue to move on throughout their NBA career. And also, I think the biggest news for the Raptors is that Masai Ujiri did re-sign with them. And that's got to be big news, especially in the coming years as we see the Raptors try to grow and develop and maybe become that next team in the future. I'm curious to see where they go in that sort of situation. But it looks like he did sign a new deal and will become the top basketball and business executive and also global philanthropist through his Giants of Africa. It looks like he has a team in Africa for the African Basketball League that I'm assuming is involved in. I'm not sure to what extent he is involved in, but it's awesome to see that he, arrived in 2013, dominated, got themselves a championship, and really Masai Ujiri is kind of the prime example, and really Brad Stevens should learn from Masai Ujiri on how it is to be, the president of basketball operations for a basketball team. Because right now, the Celtics, the only thing that we can say right now is that we signed Enes Kanter and we got him back to Boston. Really kind of frustrating in my opinion, but we'll see what happens in that sort of situation. But with that being said, before we get going, guys, please remember to get your merch if you are interested in merchandise for the Fusion Corp channel, or I should say the Charged live stream. Also remember to follow the live Charge stream, as we do have a Twitter account. I'll kind of show it here at the Charge stream if you guys are interested in following the channel and kind of getting some tweets from my guy intern Sean. And again, like I said, we have a team store, and we also have a donation link if you are interested in donating to the channel. Again, not really necessary, but if you guys do support the channel, if you do mess with us, then of course remember to hit that donation link. But the biggest important thing, and I'll kind of bring it up on the channel right now. And let me see, make sure it's not YouTube Studio. My biggest thing, guys, is I want to get that subscriber count up. We're at 762. Can we get that subscriber count to 1,000? That is going to be my biggest task for you guys, is to get me 1,000 subscribers. And once we do, I think we're going to do a special giveaway. I think it is about that time. I know that, a lot of people use the subscriber giveaway or I should say the subscriber special giveaway for something, but I kind of want to do something special for you guys. This kind of journey, the way that we've been going so far, has been a lot of fun, And I think me and my boy Pete would appreciate, you know, kind of giving back to you guys as well for the time that you spent supporting the channel. But with that being said, this has, of course, been your boy Bernie here. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Please remember to, like I said, share this with everybody else. And if you guys do have any breaking news or anything like that, please remember to leave it in the Discord. There is a Discord link, and if anybody out there has it, share it with people. Make sure to add it to the videos as well moving forward. And also, guys, remember to hit that Twitter and also follow the channel. And if you guys do have news and rumors, put it in there. Let us know what you guys are thinking about. But with that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.